Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journey, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2022. And that brings us to a work which is included in this wonderful release from Criterion earlier in the year. This is a box set which is called Martin Scorsese's World Cinema Project Number 4. And there are a number of works here included, in which is a film which has been designated by Criterion at spy number 1147. This is a work which is described as being from the year 1939, and the name of the filmmaker is Andre de Toth. And the name of the work is Two Girls on the Street. This is the work from the year 1939, and it is from the filmmaker Andre de Toth. And among its really lovely cast, we have Bella Bordet and Maria Tasnadi Fekete and others. And they portray our main characters. Indeed, we see it in the title, Two Girls on the Street. And we see these young women who are coming from, say, similar yet different circumstances. And indeed, they come from their village or their hometown experiences. And they try to find their way, try to find their livelihoods, and try to find who they are in a sense of, say, emotional and independence like satisfaction in the place of Budapest. And these are Vika and Gyöngy, the two girls of the title. And indeed, the film charts various points of, say, their own journeys. And indeed, as I say, they have similar yet different journeys. And part of the way that it charts their journeys is to give a glimpse as to the hardships or the difficulties that might have confronted them in their previous, say, situations that maybe have been part of the reasons why they find themselves in the city the way they do. So, for instance, in these scenes, we see a lot of ways in which the film goes into some pretty intense and pretty quite direct and perhaps even explicitly portrayed aspects of the reasoning, as well as going into aspects or parts of their, or depictions of their lives now, again, trying to find their way, trying to provide a sense of self and a sense of independence and a sense of being and belonging in this area of Budapest. And now this is where the film goes into, I think, various modes and methods to portray this journey of these two characters. So, for example, it goes into the aspect of the drama or the melodrama, and I think in a very fascinating and entertaining way. And so these two characters do have their own journeys, and those journeys are involving the various relationships that they come across. And so this means that we see a number of other supporting characters, other, say, suitors or potential romantic or love interests that for one reason or another tend to have certain, say, elements or character traits or positionings or situations about them that lead to a sense of a complex dynamic in terms of the emotional relationships that seem to be forged or attempted to be forged between these young women on the one hand and the romantic interests or suitors on the other. So that forms part of the drama or melodrama. And another, I think, very key and emotional dynamic is the relationship between the two main characters themselves. uh, and Youngie, and we see here a very fascinating way in which the fluidity and dynamism of this emotional relationship, the core of the film, in manner of speaking, can give way to, again, really quite bold and very, very honest and very profound depictions of this relationship. And so this relationship, I think, in the essay, for example, that's included with this great set, has aspects, or gives descriptions about this relationship being maybe friend to friend, and then maybe mother to daughter, and indeed it might go into more of a very close and profoundly intimate and personal emotional connection between the two. And so I think this type of say, nuanced fluidity, as depicted in this film, is one of the reasons, I think, why this film has a sense of, say, maybe timelessness, or a way in which it is trying to show the complex, balanced nuance of the say the gamut of human nature and the human experience. I think it's shown very, very tenderly, and also in a way that gives us viewers the ability to yet again further sympathize with the stories of these two young women. So it's really done quite remarkably, and very, very skillfully indeed, from a cinematic level. Also, from a cinematic level, I should say, as I speak about this, we have very profound and very, very effective stylistic devices that are employed here, that really give a sense of, quote unquote, a sense of the grounded realism on the one hand, and yet at the same time we have a heightened, dramatic, cinematic style on the other. And so sometimes we'll see aspects of say the hardships of the characters done in a very direct way, and then at the same time we might see certain stylistic traits or stylistic devices, such as the use of shadow, or the use of a sense of blending of certain chronologies, that will really provide a what might be said to be a heightened realism, which I think is quite effective as well. Plus, we have the added benefit, or the added, say, cinematic flourish of the use of music and musical numbers and the like. And music, we know, forms a very key component with this work, Two Girls on the Street. And so we have so many things going on here at once, and I think we have a myriad, or a sort of tapestry of stories that are occurring in a way that might be lend itself, or might lend the film to a type of not necessarily portmanteau, but a sort of network of characters that we meet along the way, and that seem to have a similar purpose or drive or focus, and yet circumstances are indeed individual, or unique, or individual to that person, and yet at the same time it does lend itself to a reading or interpretation about sort of the outcomes of what one might call the commonly shared experience. And so a very fulfilling and quite remarkable work indeed. And I should say too that there are certain traditions that also might be said to be connected, or maybe pay tribute or homage, which really give us film a sense of place, and a sense of, say, a sense of almost universality, in a manner of speaking. And so there's a way in which we have the film focusing in on sort of social realism aspects of, say, manners and mannerisms, the idea of quote unquote traditional social mores versus a sense of a sort of blossoming modernism, and how those tradition and modernity might be said to be clashing in the context of the stories of these young women, and how the essay, which is included here, the essay by Chris Fujiwara, which we'll talk about a little bit later, creates a very interesting point about this, which is how, in this way, the idea of maybe social class, or the breakdown of social class in favor of, say, our hope and want and desire to see these characters succeed in the way that they want to see succeed uniquely and as individuals, how this breakdown of class or class structures or class barriers might be said to be in many ways a type of link to or maybe parallel to works from French cinema like Jean Renoir and Rules of the Game, for example, or how we have certain aspects of drama or melodrama tied with a really innate and very profoundly human sense of tragedy in self, which can be linked to, say, Italian drama or melodrama from the 20th early part of the 20th century, and links to things like white telephones, for example. And so these, I think, give a sense of place and presence, while at the same time we understand that this is a story that is set in Hungary, and it is a story that is also about the sort of the rural and the urban in the context of Hungary and the culture at the time. And so there are also some comments that are being made in this sort of social cultural context, which I think is also very fascinating, while also being a film that relies upon very, I think, fundamental aspects of human nature that make it very accessible and very universal. So I think that's another great strength of this film, is the way in which it has a sense of place and self, while being something that has a full reach beyond, borders of the time, as it were. So all in all, this is a very charming and quite a it's a film that is very enveloping and very engaging as a drama, and very worthwhile indeed. And so this is the work, which is Two Girls on the Street from 1939, Andre de Toth. So the Criterion Collection has released this film, Two Girls on the Street, again, as part of this wonderful set, which is Martin Scorsese's World Cinema Project #4. And it is purported to be based on a 2K resolution transfer. And so let us just refer to the restoration details that are mentioned in this great booklet around page 68 of such booklet. There it says, Two Girls on the Street is presented in its original aspect ratio of 1.37 to 1. This digital transfer was created in 2K resolution on an Aeroscan film scanner from the 35mm original camera negative. The original monaural soundtrack was restored from the 35mm original soundtrack negative, preserved at the Hungarian National Archive in Budapest, etc. And so here we have yet another great example of the powers of the restoration process in cinema today. Two Girls on the Street being included in this set. So I must say that this is, again, my initial entry and introduction to this work via this Criterion release. And so I don't have a frame of reference in terms of what it might have looked like prior to this. However, I can say that from my admittedly limited capacity, I am very, very impressed with this, as I am with the other works. This has a look and feel that is crisp and fresh and very sharp and vibrant. And it feels so timeless, and it has a sense of almost being like it's ageless in a manner of speaking in terms of the presentation. So I'm very impressed indeed, very, very impressed indeed. So again, another great example of the restoration work as part of this great set. So Two Girls on the Street, well worth checking out if you haven't done so already. And then let us talk about the supplements, which can be found linked to this work, Two Girls on the Street. So there are a number of supplements. The first of such supplements is, as we've seen with the other World Cinema Project films is the introduction from the great Martin Scorsese. And this is described as being from the year 2022, and it's approximately 2 minutes. So it's a nice introduction into Andre de Toth and his references to this filmmaker in terms of the Hollywood career, in terms of a sense of adventure and the adventure and pioneering spirit, in a manner of speaking, both professionally and also personally. But then also how this, and how maybe for certain, say, viewers, this might be one of the ways that certain viewers might be aware of the cinema of Andre de Toth. But then this is also used as a means to introduce this film, which is coming earlier in his career, and how there are, in many ways, a lot of traits and hallmarks that could be said to be linked to later parts of his filmography, as well as a type of expression of the real vibrant energy and a pioneering spirit of Andre de Toth as a filmmaker. So, for example, when Scorsese speaks about this for Two Girls on the Street, he speaks about the sense of spontaneity and the sense of expressionism. I mean, there are moments in this film that, as I mentioned earlier, there are certain moments of direct presentation of drama, but then there are also moments of cinematic expressionism that are very, very nuanced and quite complex indeed, in terms of light and shadow, in terms of the use of a camera movement, and so very technically, advanced and quite accomplished in many ways. And so this is also referred to, as well as to linking to sort of the social, cultural, and heritage of Hungary and Budapest. And this is a story that is very, very linked to that context, while at the same time providing a sense of the universal appeal based on certain aspects of the human drama that's portrayed here. So that balance is actually quite well struck indeed, and Scorsese makes note of this in a really lovely way. So once again, we have the Martin Scorsese introduction. It's done in a way that you can watch the introduction first and then go into the film if you haven't seen the film yet, or you can watch the film first and then you can go back to the introduction and watch the film again for yet further context and further illumination, etc. So whatever the case may be for you, my dear friends, it's a great introduction. It doesn't go into too many spoiler details at all, so it's well worth checking out before or after you've seen the film Two Girls on the Street. So that's the first thing, the Scorsese introduction. That's not all, because then we have life lessons from Andre de Toth, and this is these are excerpts from discussions that were had with Andre de Toth in circa 1994, National Film Theatre, London, and we have various aspects where he's talking. I think he's talking as a type of almost way in terms of his filmography writ large, in a manner of speaking. It's not necessarily focused primarily or exclusively on his early career in Europe, or specifically on Two Girls on the Street. So we're not getting a lot of comments on that. There are certain comments that are made which could be said to be linked to his experiences making Two Girls on the Street. But this sort of excerpted interview with Andre de Toth is more to do with his reaction to, say, various technological advancements in cinema at the time, or at the time that he was working in Hollywood, for example. His career overall, certain points of his career, in particular the latter part of his career stages, where he found a lot of, say, critical, financial, and worldwide success, in a manner of speaking. And so he's looking back on those points. He's also looking at it from a contemporary edge and angle. So while also, again, making brief references to his earlier works. But this is primarily, I think one can take this as being a supplement that is maybe more along the lines of his career writ large. So it's very fascinating, and Andre de Toth and his manner and his demeanor and his charisma, very, very rightly emphasized in this. So please check this out if you can. Again, it's approximately 11 minutes, well worth it. And then let us go to the great booklet, which includes the essay, and I referred to it earlier. It's by Chris Fujiwara. It's called All Is Lies, and it begins on page 48 of this booklet. Now, I must say that I am a big fan of the essays, and I think the essays are perhaps one of the great strengths of Criterion Collection releases overall, and specifically, I would say, of this World Cinema Project set. I mentioned earlier the other supplements that are linked to Two Girls on the Street, the Scorsese introduction, which is great, and the Andre de Toth interview, which goes over sort of career-spanning aspects of his career, etc., which is really great and a great primer into the world of Andre de Toth. But if you want to get a really detailed and specific, say, discussion or take on Two Girls on the Street, you're going to get it with the Chris Fujiwara essay, All Is Lies. This is really wonderful. It goes into specifics of the plot. It goes into aspects of how it could be said to be linked to other traditions of European cinema. I mentioned this earlier, the Italian cinema, French cinema, Renoir is mentioned, white telephones are mentioned, etc. And also it goes into the ways in which we have what one might call a fluid dynamism in the emotional relationships of the two young women, the two protagonists of the story, as well as the relationships that they have outside of that core, namely with the supporting characters, some of the other suitors or potential suitors of their lives, which he points out, Chris Fujiwara does, that this could be seen as maybe dramatic or melodramatic, but it does emphasize maybe the emotional core of the two women of the title. And so this is another great point that he raises. And also he talks too about the context of de Toth and his career, and also the career of the actors, the performers who appeared here. And so giving us sort of the film production context leading up to or including the making of Two Girls on the Street, etc. So, and then also ways in which certain aspects of this film could be said to be linked to other key films in the latter part in the Hollywood career of Andre de Toth. So all in all, this is so encompassing, so wonderful indeed. This essay is, I think, for me, the key supplement when it comes to this Two Girls on the Street release from Criterion. Well done indeed. I don't want to disparage the supplements that are included as part of this release, Two Girls on the Street. However, because I think they're both great, the Scorsese introduction and the Toth excerpt interview, plus the Fujiwara essay, which are all brilliant. I would have loved to have seen maybe one more supplement, perhaps maybe a video discussion talking specifically about Two Girls on the Street, or specifically about those nuances and the context of de Toth's career during this time, the 1930s. It would have been nice to have seen that. Maybe one extra supplement as part of the supplements menu. But be that as it may, we get so many, or we get all those points and then some, as expressed in the Chris Fujiwara essay. Again, it's called All Is Lies. So please check this essay out if you can. My strong recommendation is to watch the film first, because I think the essay is written on the basis that the reader will have already seen the film at least once. So watch the film first, and then after you've seen the film, you can check out this wonderful, wonderful essay from Chris Fujiwara. It is called All Is Lies. And so, my dear friends, that is the film Two Girls on the Street, again, part of this wonderful set, Martin Scorsese's World Cinema Project #4, spine number 1147. So please check it out if you can. It is really, really worth it. And with that, my dear friends, that is it as far as today's discussion. So thank you so much for joining. I hope that everything is well with you. And until we see each other again at the next video, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great, great movies. So thank you so much, my dear friends. I really mean it. Thank you so much. And until the next one, thank you and cheers.